That is a stunning piece of wood. I would have never thought in a million years that that would have ended up coming out. Don't even see it very well because it's so shiny, the light's reflecting off of it. But I took that bit. So this is the project. I'm calling it my prehistoric bowl, as you can see from the title. The reason being is because it's old, chunky and rough around the edges, just like me. So, sticky and horrible. So yes, so yeah, nothing else to say really. It's failed. No good. So I'll see you guys next week. Fresh new project, one that works. And take care. Speak to you soon, and bye for now. Good afternoon, how are we all? Hope you're all well. Thank you very much for coming over and joining me. Hope you're all having an amazing day. Bit windy here today, but other than that, it's dry and sunny. So, testing a new mic out today. If it's not good enough, you can't hear what I'm saying, a bit distorted, let me know, and then I will try and adjust some settings, but I'm just trying it. So hopefully, when I do some lives, just me, I haven't got to use the headset. I can just use the mic. So with that, welcome to everybody. I will quickly read out the chat and then we will make a start. I lost a few people who was in first because for some reason I had to reboot my chat, and I've lost the first couple of people, but if I miss your name, please shout and I will read it out later on. So the first I have on my list is Michael McEwen, Colin, Paul Finley, Gary Glass, Dr. Bob, Barry's Wood Creations, Rob from Copper Owl, Nicola Cavell. How are you? You're supposed to be working. You must be really busy. Scroll through the list. Chris Dodds, Todd at Glen Cove, Wurzel. No worry, Wurzel. Catch you on the next one. Brian at Hartwood. Andy. And then I think that's all I've got, but obviously that's not everybody because there's 34 people in and I haven't called out 34 names. But anyway, let's get over. So today's idea of today's live is basically just doing some resin casting. I get lots of questions about how I cast this, how I cast that. Does it go in a pressure pot? Don't it go in a pressure pot? You don't have to put everything in a pressure pot. The resin will cure without pressure. The idea of the pressure pot is the reason I put pieces in the pressure pot is if it's got multiple pieces in it, so it's wood and resin. But obviously my pressure pot's only this big, so I can't get massive bits in it, so the bit we'll cast today won't go in the pressure pot. But if you seal your wood correctly, you should be okay. You shouldn't really have an issue. So we're just going to cross that bridge on how to seal the wood, how to make it airtight, because it's the air that comes out of the wood that causes the problem in the resin. And then the two pieces I'm going to cast today are not going to go in the pressure pot, and we will see how they come out. But if you stir your resins well, and then just keep an eye on it as they start to cure, and just gently pop the air bubbles, you should be okay. So we'll do them, we'll try them, and then there'll be two pieces ready for future projects in the near future. So let's get over to Hi William, hi Vince. Let's go over to the bench. I've got most things set up, but you never know what's going to go right and what's going to go wrong, do you? So anyway, I'll put you over onto the bench, and then we can see where we are going from there. So I just set up this camera, so I'll just move this where I want it, which is about there, I think. So I think that's good. Like I say, if you can't hear the sound properly, shout, and then I will adjust where I can. Right, so I've got two bits here that I'm going to use. I've just ripped, this was one log, I've just ripped it down in half, and we're going to put that in as a blank. It's not going to be that depth, it's not going to be that depth, because I'm going to, that'll be turned off there because I want part of that piece in it, and obviously we're going to make it whatever shape we want it. I've made this quick hash up mould. These basically are fit in here like so. That's how they'll go in, and then we'll cast that in. And then what I want to do with this is I want this to go like a platter. So I want like a natural effect through the middle there. So what we'll do is we'll just put some translucent resin in there. But what we need to do is we need to make this watertight, because obviously it's just timber and it's not watertight. So I'm going to show you how to make it watertight, and then we'll go through how we're gonna hold the pieces of wood down, because obviously they're going to float as soon as we put resin on there. It's going to float. So we'll just drill a couple of holes through and just put a couple of screws in just to hold that in, and then we'll fill it full of resin. So that's the first one. And then the second one is a mold, or this is a silicone mold I have. It's about 12 inches across, and what we're going to do is just going to do multi-colours in this one, so some nice vibrant colours, and we're going to get it so hopefully we can get the colours so they don't blend in together, they stay their individual colours. So you have to wait for it to nearly to cure, not too much that it won't pour, but enough that the colours won't blend together. So that's the plan on that one. So let's get this one done first, because this is the most awkward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this watertight. The way I make this watertight is two ways. You can either put duct tape all inside it and do it that way and hope it's not going to seal, or hope it's going to seal. But the way I do it, make sure you use an old piece of board that you're never going to want to use for anything else. The way I do it is I just smother it in Vaseline or petroleum jelly or whatever you want to call it, and that always works well. The resin won't eat into it, and if you put it on thick enough, the heat from the resin won't melt it. So just cheap petroleum jelly and just run it around the joints, and all you're doing is just sealing all those joints up. Put it on the wood as well, and then the resin won't stick to the wood, so when you come to demold it, it'll come out quite easy. And like I say, you want the cheapest petroleum jelly you can find. This came from a pound shop, cheap and cheerful, and all we're doing is just smothering that on all the joints. And like I say, all that is doing is just sealing any gaps we might have along the bottom edge. This corner here is the prone edge, and the corners there is prone as well. So we don't want that to leak, because resin will find the exit of anywhere it can find. So as always, if there's any questions, please put a Q in front of the question. I have got the laptop going beside me here, as you can see, so I should be able to see any questions that come up. And if I miss it, don't get offended, just put it in again. So I'm just going to smother that around just so that seals that wood, and then like I said, the resin won't stick to the wood. It'll demold pretty easy. So I'm just going to wipe off all the excess. We don't want smothered, we don't want loads of, we only need a bare minimum on there just to seal it. Like I say, the corners and where the two timbers meet are the most important place. Right, so that's that sealed. So we're going to let that soak in. And what we'll do while we're waiting for that to soak in, we will seal our timber. So we'll move this out of the way, let that soak in. So all we're going to seal our timber with is some sand and sealer. Nice thin coat so that soaks in well. So we'll just get a little pot. So we're going to seal our 2 bits of wood. Next Friday, Andy, is the hashtag due. Then I'll show them on next Sunday's live. So we're just going to seal this. What a nice even coat of sealer over this. So the idea of this is just so this should restrict any air bubbles coming out of the timber, because it's the air bubbles that cause us problems when we're casting. We'll just do the end. Just spend a little bit of time making sure you seal well. As we all know, sand and sealer don't take long to dry, so it won't take long. I've only rough sawn the bottom. I haven't worried about sanding it all up so it's all nice and smooth, because the bottom is going to be the back of the piece, so that doesn't really matter too much because we're going to obviously turn it off anyway. So get that one dry, and we'll do the other end of it. Anywhere that you've got a bit of wood that's a little bit soft or pucky or punky or whatever you want to call it, just make sure you let the sand and sealer soak in. That will make it a little bit more stronger. If you've got a piece of wood that's really soft and punky, then the resin will harden it up, but the resin's going to want to soak into it, so therefore it's going to generate air bubbles, because obviously if resin's going in, then air's got to come out. So just be wary of that. So just did, ooh, I'm going to order my t-shirt. Not the maker's t-shirt. Don't get it all over the maker's t-shirt, Steve. Right. So this one's dry now. So we can turn this round and do the other end. Now I'm not going to say this is going to stop every single air bubble, but it will help reduce them. But we don't mind little air bubbles, because we can get rid of a lot of those when we're turning out. But this will reduce the majority of them. So we've got a bit of a crack down there. So we're going to try and run some of that sand and sealer down that crack. Try and seal that up. So if you've got a real dry piece of wood, then you may have to give this a couple of coats. But we're going to give this one coat and hope for the best. So that's our one coat of sand and sealer. So like I say, you could coat that again. That may be beneficial, but this is quite a dry piece of wood. So I'm hoping that it's going to come out well. Obviously, the drier the wood you can use, the better. If there's any moisture in the wood, then the moisture may come out and make your resin go murky colour. So, like I say, if you've got any moisture in your wood, you want it as dry as possible to get the best result. Right, so what we need to do now, we need to fix our blanks into our mould. So I'm just going to grab a drill and a couple of screws, and then we will fix that in. So I need to move this camera to get out the doorway. Right, there we go. Right, so them screws are a little bit long, but they'll let it do. Let's get our mould back up. Bit big this, but right. So location of your bits, depending on where you want them. I'm just going to put these there and there. I'm hoping, because we've got this overhang here, it's not going to cause me any issues with airlocks. It shouldn't do, but we will cross that bridge if it does. So I'm just going to drill through there, put a screw in there. And then I'm going to do the same up this end. Now these screws are a little bit long really, but they want to be in tight, because if not, if resin comes up to that line, it will leak out over the top. So you can glue these down beforehand, but because I've obviously put the petroleum jelly on, I can't do that. So let's just put this one in here. Oh, Rex had a question. Right, okay, hang on, I will go back and have a look. Let me just go back to the computer and I'll have a look. Right, Rex, let's have a look. What's your question? What wood type? I don't know. I think it's a PCU, but I'm not 100% sure. If someone's in there, then they'll obviously tell me. It's got the sort of U coloristics inside. So if someone can tell me, absolutely great. Right, so they're all fixed in. Now we're ready for some resin. So let's get some pots. Not 100% sure how much resin I'm going to need. So we're going to mix up a couple of big pots because it's only going to have a slight tinge of a colour to it. We can use it if we have to with something else. Now the resin I use is measured on weight. Some resins are measured on weight, some are measured on volume. The resin I use is measured on weight. Last time I had a question. Right, okay. Would wood harden the work instead of sand and sealer if the wood is soft? It's possible. It's possible. You can try it. The only trouble you've got to remember is some hardeners may react against your resin. So that I don't know without doing any testing. So depending on the harder you had, so you're better off if you're going to use a wood hardener to do a small piece, put in a little bit of resin and see how it reacts. It may be okay, it may not be okay. So like I say, it's down to the hardener that you're actually using. So let's mix some of this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix 2 pots of this up, but I'm only going to put the colour to 1. Got the fan blowing on, that's blowing the pot. I'm only going to mix 1 pot up in colour, and then if we need the other one, which I think we will, then we can add a bit of colour to that as well. So let's have part A. Part A. So the resin I use, as always, is the epoxy resin. I've been using this for 2 or 3 years now and got on really well with it. I really like how it works. They do several different types. They do a slow cure one if you're doing deep pours. They do a crystal clear one, and they do this one. This one has got a little slight, just a real slight yellow tinge to it, which I don't mind because 9 times out of 10 I put colour in it, so it doesn't really matter to me. But if you want one that's really crystal clear, they do one that is absolutely crystal clear. You mean that does look clear, but when you put the when you hold it up against the crystal clear one, it has got a little tiny yellow tinge to it. So not, like I say, not a massive amount, but just enough that you can see it. So depends on what you want, depending on what you're doing with it. I mean, when I did the snow globe, I used the crystal clear, and it is, like I say, crystal clear. And if you're doing, say you was doing a river table or something like that, then you'd want the deep pour one. And obviously they're all different prices depending on what you want. But like I say, I've been using the epoxy now for, must be getting on for 3 years and not had any issues at all with it. So my motto is, if it works, stick with it. So this is 2 to 1. So part 2, 2%, 2 part 2, or part A, and then 1 part B. So we're going to put 500 grams of part 500. These are a litre. Let's have a look. So it might be 600 actually. See what we can get in there. See how much room's in the pot. So that's 600. Let's go 700. 700 part A. 700 part A. Oops, a bit too much. Got carried away there. So 700 part A. So we want 350 of part B. Rex would have than the wood centre for a future tenor mortars be better than that? No. The resin is just as hard as the wood. If you over tighten, exactly the same as if you're using a wooden mortise or tenon, it'll obviously break out. But if you're using it properly, shouldn't be a problem. Shouldn't be a problem at all. I've used mortise and tenons on resin and never had a problem with them. The only way you're going to break them is if you're too aggressive when you're turning out, or you over tighten. Right, so I want 350 of this, so that would make that 950. 950. No, 1050. Steve, you need your maths properly, boy. So we can get it all in. Can we get it? Oh, it's close. 1050. We'll do the same on this one. So there we go. So that's our 2 lots of resin. So that's roughly 2 kilos of resin mixed up, which should be enough for our thing. So what we need to do now is mix it. So I'm going to mix this with a drill. Get these from Amazon, about £5 for 4. So much easier to mix with. One thing you must do when you're mixing resin is make sure you mix it really, really well. As you can see at the minute, it's really murky. That will go crystal clear once that's all mixed in. Need to mix for around about 3 minutes. Making sure you get right down to the bottom if the bit's big enough. And we're going to mix this before we put any colour in it. And then obviously when we get the colour in it, we're mixing it a little bit more then, so we're giving it double bubble. Alright, so that's that one. We'll give it a little bit more in a minute, we'll just mix this one up though. There's 2 things when resin won't work properly. Is 1 if you get the quantities wrong, and 2 if you don't mix them properly. You're better off mixing them for a minute or 2 longer than what they need, than not mixing them enough. What I will do is when I finish mixing with this, I will just get a stirring stick and make sure that they're stirred right down to the bottom. You can see at the moment there's quite a few air bubbles in there, but as it starts to thermally react and starts to cure, the resin will get warm and the air bubbles will all start rising to the top. Hello, good. Right, so drip off, get another tub just to stand that into. I can get a pot out. You should always get your pot out first, really. So that's standing there, and clean that off afterwards with some acetone or a wet wipe or whatever you want to get it off with. Acetone is usually the good thing. Hi Jennifer, how are you? Alright, so now we need to pick our colours, what we're going to do. Like I said, I just want a subtle colour, something that's going to just stand out from the wood, but not going to stand out loads. And, you know, not it's going to take the wood away. So let's have a look at some colours. So we can go for a real pale blue, bit of green, well, but not green, definitely not green. Or we can have a bit of yellow, or we can have a bit of bronze. Let's go for, actually, let's not put a pigment, let's put a dye in it instead. So let's choose a dye instead. So let's have a look at these dyes. These will be a translucent colour, so these will be better than a pigment, I think. That's green. It's grass green. Oh, blue, that's what I'm looking for. Sky blue. Purplish red. Never heard of purplish red before. So what do you reckon? Do you reckon a red or a blue? Hi, Ruby. Pale yellow. Pale yellow. Pale yellow. Got golden yellow. Lemon yellow. Glyn said yellow. Let's go with yellow then. So golden yellow or a pale yellow. That one looks like a urine sample. That one does look. Right, so let's go with. I think that's a bit more of a too neon that one. So let's go with this one. Get a stirring stick. A bit more. It's not very strong, that yellow. Not a very strong yellow. Let's put a little bit of this in as well. Oh, that's more like it. That's more of a yellow. Plum. Roy's at a birthday lunch, so he's not here today. He's out feeding his face instead. Right, so we're going to let that stand a little bit to obviously let the air bubbles start to come to the top of it. Good job we got another one there, just in case we have to mix some more. There's another yellow there, but that's more of a solid colour, that one. So we've got another box there we can, if we need to. So I don't think that's going to be nowhere near enough for that. So I think we're going to have to mix in some more, but what we'll do is we'll get that in there and need a bigger bench. We'll get that poured in, I think, and let that bring the air out, pour it nice and slow, and then let that air come out. Oh, that might be enough. It's deceiving. This is where you see if you've got any leaks or not. So it's going to creep round the back of the mould, around the back there. So we'll just let that fill that bit up around the back there first, and then we'll top it up. So it's now filling up around the back there. We've got no leaking out, which is a good thing. If I fill it up as high as I can get it, then as it cures, it will drop a little bit anyway. So I think that might be enough, that one thing. So that's good. So that means we can use that one for part of the other one as well. So that make it doubly jubbly. Yeah, this has got like a yellow tinge. I don't want the same colour. You need to have that so it looks a little bit different. Just finish topping this up. Pour a little bit around the back here, I suppose, rather than waiting for it. So that's about 3mm from the top. So if that drops down a little bit, it's not going to be an issue. So what we need to do is just keep an eye on it for a few minutes, just to pop the air bubbles in it. I need some gas in the gun. So if we're going to get air bubbles, it's going to be on the end grain and where it's not been sealed properly. So obviously we need to make sure we get in all those little nooks and crannies. So you can see where there's the odd little air bubble just lifting up. So we're just going to keep an eye on it for a few minutes, and then hopefully it'll be okay. Like I say, we get the odd one. Can't really do a lot about it because obviously it's natural material, so we can't really do a massive amount about it. But we've just got a few come along the edge of that, so we're just going to run a stick along there, try and break them off. They did say where it goes underneath, you may get a few, because obviously the air can't escape. But another way you can seal your wood is by giving it a coat of resin beforehand. So if you give your resin a coat of wood, if you give your wood a coat of resin before you use it to cast, then that will seal the wood before obviously you put the resin onto it. So that's another way you can do it, but obviously you need to mix up some resin, paint it all, leave it to dry, and then do it that way. But we've got a little bit coming around this corner now. So I'm looking happy, looking good with that. It's crystal clear, got no leaks, it's not leaked out anywhere, which is the added bonus. So I'm just going to move this over to the other side of the room, and then we'll just keep an eye on it. And if there's any air bubbles popping up, to be honest, there's a lot less bubbles coming up than what I expected it to be. So let's move it somewhere out of the way. I'll clear a bench down. So we can move it over out of the way. And that can sit there and cure. It'll take around about 40 minutes before it actually starts to go off hard. And then it'll really get really hot. And then it should cure off. But yeah, we'll just keep an eye on that for the next few minutes. And we'll see what happens. Right, so let's get on with the other one. So this one we're going to do some nice, bright, vibrant colours. I am going to use pigments in this one because I want them real bright and vibrant. So I think what we'll do is we'll mix up another tub of resin because I'm sure that I'm going to need 2 for this. So what we'll do is we'll move that stirring pot, we'll move that over to there, and then we'll use that for mixing up in. Save on costs. And we haven't got no cross contamination, mind you. The amount of yellow what was in it, you wouldn't really notice the difference anyway. So we're going to do exactly the same. Part A 700. And just remember, whatever resin you buy, make sure you know whether it's by weight or by volume. Because if you don't get the mixtures right, it won't cure properly. Part B. Might be enough in that one. You always end up with more of one than you do the other left over. Always. No, 100 grams short. I've got a new one for 100 grams. Right, Lewis, how you doing? So 100 grams. Now the trouble is with these, when you pour them when they're first new, they don't pull very well because they're too full. You end up with drips like that, and then they're all over your scales and everywhere. That's near enough. Oops, let's get your phone. Right, so let's get that mixed up. So we'll go back to my mixing stick, put it in the drill. I'm good, mate. Thank you very much. They come from Amazon, Colin. If you put on Amazon resin mix and stir or stirrers, they'll come up. So I think you get 4 for about £5 or £6. Well, I think that'll do for mixing. So what we need to do now is find some colours. So obviously we don't want to be mixing all that in one colour. We want several colours. So we're going to put that into some smaller pots. So we've got some smaller pots there. So we'll just pour these, we'll split these. And we'll bring our other one we made earlier. Alright, so let's have a look what we got here. I think that'll be 5 different colours. So, first colour I'm going to go for is yellow. Because we want a nice vibrant colour. So we're going to put some nice yellow in there. Now I want these colours to quite be intense, so I'm going to put nearly a whole pack in each one. If you don't put enough pigment in it, when you turn it and you hold it to light, it'll be transparent. You can get away from that by putting a little bit of dye in it as well, like we put in the other one. But if you put enough pigment in, it should be enough to sort that problem. So that's the yellow. Let's go for a nice couple of shades of blue, I think. So I've got a sky blue and I've got an ocean blue, which are both nice colours. So let's do a couple of blues. So let's do this one in sky blue. Lovely colour this one is, sky blue. So that's our sky blue. And then we'll do our ocean blue. Hi Joe, how are you? So this one's got a bit more of a greeny tinge to it than the sky blue, but still a nice colour. The pigments I use are for a company called, if I can find one today, Resin for You. Now, if you go on eBay, they normally have a sale on where you can get like 3 packs for the price of 2, or sometimes if you buy 10, you get 2 free. I mean, they always have different deals on with different things, so it's worth going over and checking out. So we're going to put a bit of apple green in as well. I know green and blue. So this is apple green. Yeah, if you go on eBay and type in Resin for You or pigment or resin pigments, the last lot I got, they sort of, you buy 2 get 1 free. So worth having. They're not expensive. I think they're about £3 odd a sachet. They do 10 and 20 gram packs. So that resin is now starting to warm up, so we need to get a bit of a move on. So that's that one, and then we need one final colour. I think white we'll have for our final colour. So we've got some white here. Could be in the wrong place for that, you get in trouble, couldn't you? So the final one. Now this is a pearl white, so it should have a little bit of a shimmer to it. But we need to make sure we mix it really well. So as you can see, that's a nice shimmery white, that one. So I'm just going to give them another mix, make sure they're all mixed up properly. And they're all now starting to warm up, so we know the resins are now starting to cure. This green one especially. So I'm just going to go over and check the other one, see if we've got any air bubbles come up on that. Actually, no, we haven't. Wow. No air bubbles at all. Happy days. Right. So you can pour your mould several different ways. You can either do it so you pour one colour in and another, you can pour 2 colours together, you can pour all in the middle and just let it do what it wants to do. So there's loads of different ways you can do it. It's just the luck of the draw really, how you get the effects, and you need to get it so the colours don't really blend. So you need to get the resin up to a certain temperature, because if you get it too cool, as it heats, it causes thermal reaction to cure. The resin will swirl and cause the colours to mix. Now you can get some really nice effects doing it that way. I've done several where I've allowed them just to swirl and mix, so you get an effect like that in the bottom of them. There's another, I mean, I've done some of the eggs I've done on the lives. They've just been through thermal. They'll just be on thermal reaction. So you just pour the colours and let them mix and let them swirl together to mix, which you can get a nice effect. But I want this trying to be a bit more blocky, so How do you clean the measuring cups? 9 times out of 10, the resin I'll just pull out of them. If it doesn't pull out of them, then I throw them away. Yeah, you're right there, Andy. I mean, these cups I use are painter's cups. They're used for automotive spray painting. So they're not expensive. And like I say, when they're dry, if they pull out, then I'll keep the cup and use them again. If they don't, then I'll just throw them away. You can use silicone cups if you wanted to, but it depends on what you want to do. Right, so let's put that back in there. Put these away now. We don't really need these, do we? So we're just going to let these resins warm up a little bit more, and then we will see what happens. Just check the temperature on them. They're all within about 5 degrees of each other, so we'll just give them a little bit longer to warm up, and then we can pour them and hopefully keep the colours fairly separated. So like anything in the wood turning world or resin world or whatever you want to call it, it's all about trial and error. You do some they work, you do some they fail. When I first started, I had no end of fails through trying to do stuff too deep, getting thermal cracking. At that time I was using a polyester resin, and when I found out what the problem was, the problem was actually I was putting too much catalyst in, because polyester resin relies on a catalyst to cure it. And it said on the instructions to put in 1.5%, and I was putting 1.5% in, and it was thermal cracking. I dropped it down to 0.5%. Yes, it took longer to cure, but it actually cured the thermal cracking problem straight away. So sometimes it's just about experimenting and seeing how good you can move things about, and it's how it works for you. Again, it's how it works for your purposes. If I was doing a really deep pour, then I would use the slow cure for sure. But I have actually poured this that deep as that cup is, and it's not thermal cracked. So yes, I totally agree. Silicone cups are more easy for smaller. Yeah, because you can squeeze the cup out and just gently pour them in. If I'm doing small areas, like if I'm doing these pen blanks that I do, what I use is a syringe. Oops. I use a syringe that you can flush out with acetone and just reuse. I find them pretty handy as well. Or you can use pipettes as well. You can use pipettes, syringes. You can put just little dribbles on a stick and just run it into small areas. There's so many different things that you can do, and again, it's all down to how it works for you. So just keep an eye on these. Trouble is, you get that fine window, all of a sudden they'll just go. They'll take a long while to get up to a certain temperature, and all of a sudden, as soon as they get to that certain point, they will just go. You get around about 35-40 minutes to play around with them, which is quite a long time. There are resins out there that cure a lot quicker. If you're doing small pieces, like when we said about sealing the wood, you could use UV resin. So you paint a little bit of UV resin on it, then use a UV light to cure it. That cures within minutes. Then you can move on to the next step. Thanks for the tip into the dark arts. Got to go now as we're off to Castle for the... Alright, Pete, thank you very much for coming over. Have a good one, mate. Take care. Glad you're feeling better anyway. Yeah, with the white powder and the syringes, I'd be in trouble, wouldn't I? So how's the sound on the mic? Is the mic working, or is it good, clear, drony, boring, what? One thing you'll remember when you're doing resin as well, just make sure you're in a well ventilated area. This isn't too bad. This stuff doesn't smell too bad. It's quite a low, fumey resin. You get some resins that are really strong. The polyester stuff that I used to use was really, really, really good. I mean, really, really potent, sorry. And that used to give you a brain ache if you didn't have ventilation or a mask on. Ah, that's good. Sound's working good. That's good because I'll use this mic then if I do lives on my own or when I do videos, because obviously I don't need, if I'm doing a video, I don't need a headset on, so that's good. Like I say, I bought it a couple of weeks ago because when I do videos and use my phone, I've noticed that the phone sound picks up every bit of traffic going by when I'm recording. So I bought it for that because it connects into your phone as well as other devices. So if it works well, happy days. Yeah, they're cheaper that way, Andy. You don't have to, if you're buying them without a lolly, they're a lot cheaper. Thank you, Colin. I've just been re-editing some lives that I've done over the last couple of years. I'm just trying to grow the channel just a little bit more. I seem to be a little bit dormant just lately, and I thought if I put a few days of videos out, it might help. But we'll see. The content has got to talk for the channel. If the content's not good enough, then the channel's never going to grow. So we'll see what happens in the near future. Seems a high gain, so don't shout. Oh, okay. I'll turn it down. I can turn the gain down a little bit. Let me turn the gain down a little bit, Clint. Right, let's try that. I've just turned it down a little bit. We'll see how that is. See if that's any better. I've just turned the gain down just a little tiny bit. We'll see if that's any better. If it's any better, then we'll got it. If not, we'll turn it down a little more. So it's always hard to know when you buy a new piece of equipment how it's going to react. It's hard to know how it's going to react until you start using it. And when you're recording, it can come out totally different to when you're streaming. That's why I wanted to give it a try today to see how it came out. Yes, all resin in this blank, Lewis, no wood. Is that much better? So I can shout now, Len. I can shout now, Glyn. Glyn, 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 Glyn. Right, let's check the heats on these before we get carried away. Right, so it's now 50. That's still only on 30. That's 30. That's 33. That's 48. So these two are heating up quicker because these are parts of the old pots. So these are starting to heat. These are going to go quicker than the other ones. So I think we're going to get close to having to pour them all together. And then we're just going to have to risk we're just going to have to risk them mixing together. Right, so that's good. Sounds better. That's good. Should have said, guys, I could have turned the gain down earlier. Right. So the question is, do I pour them on top of each other and just let them flow out and hopefully we get some nice rings? Or do I just wiggle them about or what? What do you recommend? What do you reckon we should do? At the end of the day, it's going to be a project for a future live. So you have your input and we'll see what you want to do. Like I say, there's several different ways. We can just pour them all in the middle on top of each other and let them just push themselves out. We can just pour them all in and wiggle them about with a stick, or we can just pour them in and let nature do its course. You tell me what you want to do. Swirl them. Colin said swirl them. Todd said swirls. Ian says rings. Yeah, I noticed that when I watched one of my lives back, Andy. I noticed the intro was very loud compared to what do you call it? The sound. I'll have to turn the intro down a little bit, I think. Everybody's saying swirls. Everybody's saying swirls, I think. Right. So, whoops, you knocked that one over then. That would be a mess. So let's get all the sticks out because we ain't going to need them no more. If you come back in 3/4 of an hour, Colin, that'll be rock hard, so you won't be swirling at anything then. Once that starts to cure, within 10 minutes, that will be hard. Be hot, but that'll be hard. See, Brian's come in and put a cat amongst the pigeons now, isn't he? Look. Pour from edges and let resin mix on its own. There's always one that can't go with the flow, isn't there? Right, so um, I'm just going to pour one base colour on first, I think. So let's go ocean blue first, because that's the darkest colour. So that's ocean blue. So let's put some splodges of green in places. That's getting warm, mate, so I can feel that in my hand. Bit of white. Bit of yellow. So now we're going to do some of the sky blue. Now once I pour it in, I don't want to swirl it around too much because all I'm going to do with that is mix the colours together. And that's not really what we want to do. I don't think that green's going to mix much because that's too warm. Let's put a bit of this blue around the edge. This is the trouble with, well, not the trouble, the good thing with this is, it's like Pandora's box. You don't know what you got until you start turning it, which is a nice surprise sometimes. So, bit of yellow. Just going to do some zigzags with the yellow. Welcome to Cavell's Kitchen Ward. Hope you're well. I'll just put resin all over my cupboard, which is not the brightest idea in the world, Steve. Give that bit of tissue. And the final colour we've got is white. So I'm not going to actually stir that, because if I stir it, I could mingle in the colours. And I don't really want to do that. Or do I stir it? Ooh, decision. Hey, Woodworks, welcome, sir. How the devil are you? Do I swirl it, or do I just let nature do its thing? No, I'm going to let nature do its thing. We're going to leave that, and we're going to let nature do its thing. So we're just going to leave that. That's got 2 kilos, just over 2 kilos of resin in that. So, excuse me. We're just going to leave that. All I'm going to do is get some gas in my gun, and then we're just going to go round and pop the air bubbles. Move this camera out of the way so I can get out the door. God's sake. Don't know if there's any gas in that can, but we'll soon find out. Right, so we've just got a few air bubbles we're just going to pop. And you can see it swirling as it's curing, as that thermal reaction starting to act or happen as it's curing. So what that'll do is all the colours will start to swirl and mix up. So that's the effect I really want. I don't like to. I'd like to have got a bit more definition colours, but we'll see what it looks like when we turn it. But we'll get a nice platter out of that. It's got to be what, 30-35 mil thick, so we'll get a nice platter out of it, and we'll get something nice out of it, no doubt. This one's now curing because it's smoking. So we'll just pop the air bubbles on that one. Just bring the camera over here so you can see this one starting to cure. You can see that one's now starting to cure. I don't know if you can see the smoke coming off of it. It's now thermal reacting. Got a few little air bubbles coming up through there because obviously that's heated the wood up. So we've got a few coming through there, but we may be able to turn a lot of those out once we start to turn it off because they're all on the surface. So hopefully we can get rid of those. If you get a lot of air bubbles on there, what you can do is you can mix up some more resin once it's dry, and just run a little bit, and that will soak down into where the holes are and seal them back up. But the actual air coming up there is actually coming from underneath. So I obviously didn't sand and seal it. I bet it's coming from that crack. That's where that crack was down there. So I bet that's where it's coming from. But we'll see what it comes out like. But it's now starting. You can just see the fumes coming from it, where it's thermal reacting to start to cure. So yeah, it's going. Oops, move back over here. This one's now going as well. You can see this one's starting to smoke. So this one's now going as well. And now the temperature is absolutely unreal when they start to cure. I'll show you the temperature. Look at the temperature at 100 degrees. 110 in some places. So when you're casting, just be really careful because of the thermal reaction on them. I mean, look at it there, 127 degrees there. So it just proves how hot it gets and how dangerous it is. But give that 10 minutes and it will go. And you can start to see now, it's actually starting to go solid now. It's like gelatine now. So another 10-15 minutes, that will be rock hard. But that's how quick it goes. From that, how quick that's how short a time you've got between that's how short a time you've got between it curing and it being pourable. Touch it, Steve. Don't be stupid, Ben. There's always one in there. Always one. Let me just go read the questions quickly. Let's have a look here. What have we got? Any more questions, was there? No, I'm not putting them in the pressure pot this time. I want to do them without putting them in the pressure pot, just to show that you can do them. Yeah, I agree, Jennifer. Epoxy is one of the best resins out there, and it's fairly competitive priced as well, which is what I like about it. It's not, you're not going to break the bank using it. Thank you, Dr. Bob. Very much appreciated. Nice bottle holder. Yeah, I designed that the other day for the carnival colours. Something that will be added to the buddy range in the near future. Hopefully. Right. So, as you can see now, look how hard that has gone within that few minutes. Underneath is still a bit soft, but it's blooming hot. 127, 136, 134, 138. So in the 130 degrees. So it's really, really warm. Really warm. So we're just going to leave it. Yeah, it does look like a lizard skin, doesn't it? So we're just going to leave it for a little bit, let it cure off, let it dry, let it cool down. I normally leave them for 2 days before I touch them. That gives them a chance to cure and also set and let them cool down properly. I've done them before where I've cast a blank one day and tried to turn this the next day, and the inside is still a bit soft. So I like to let them cure naturally and then have plenty of time to set. So that's what we're going to do. So other than that, guys, that's about it really. There isn't really much more that I can explain to you about resin casting. That is the basics. It's all about trial and error. Let's go onto a camera where we can see. So, oh, wrong button. Don't want that one, do we? Want that one there. So that's about it. Like I say, it's all about trial and error. Is that 100? No, it's 130C, I think, isn't it? Yes, 130C, not F. not Fahrenheit, centigrade. Yeah, so it's about having a go. You can buy resins in small quantities, like 500 millilitres up to 20 kilos, depending on how much you're going to use. Depends on how big a pour you're going to do. But it's all about playing around. Just buy a small bottle and have a play. You haven't got to spend a massive amount of money on them. The pigments, you can just buy the small little pots of pigments. Toomey, is it Toomey? That new place that's just started selling stuff. I think it's Toomey or whatever it's called. They do little tiny pots like this of pigments for around about, I don't know, 99 pence. You can perhaps get, I think I bought 6 colours for like £3 odd. It's just to try them to see what they was like. It's just about having a go, trying and seeing how you get on. If you get on well, then great. You've cracked it, and then you can then progress in being a bit more adventurous. If it doesn't work for you, you haven't wasted a massive amount of money. You can always come back to it at a later date. One thing I will say though is if you're going to keep resin in your workshop, if you're going to keep it in there through the winter, try and keep it warm, because if it gets below a certain temperature, it will go cloudy. It'll go like there's ice cubes inside of it. It will come back, but you need to warm it up. So if you can, keep it in a nice warm environment, or put it in the airing cupboard until you're going to use it. During the winter time, it will get thicker. If I'm doing pours, what I normally do is I warm my resin up before I use it. Even though it's not cold in the workshop, I just still warm it because it's a little bit thicker than what I really want to pour. So I warm up a little bit, then use it. It makes it a lot easier to use. So if there's no questions before we go, we will knock it on the head. So let's just have a quick look. So if there's any questions, you're welcome, Ruby. That's hot. Yeah, it is very hot. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Ian. Hope you've learned something. Like I say, the holder I've made for the carnival colours. I'm looking at putting it to the buddy range, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. If people want it, then I'll do it. But if people don't want it, then there's no point doing it. I made it for that because I walked them off the bench, and I thought it'd be nice to have them on the wall. And so yeah, it'd be good. But anyway, Len, not a problem, mate. I'm always happy to answer questions that anybody wants to ask. If I can help them, then I'm more than welcome. You're more than welcome to send me over. You're welcome. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming over. Barry, you are coming Thursday. Good man. Thank you very much. Hope you had a good weekend anyway. So thank you, everybody, for the nice comments. Thank you very much for the awesome comments on Friday night's live. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I appreciate everybody who's took the time and watching my videos over the last week and commenting. Thank you very much for that as well. And if I don't see you before, I will see you next Friday. So with that, I think we should go. No, I won't throw that one over my shoulder unless it fails. It's a bit big to throw over my shoulder. I might break my arm throwing it over. But anyway, 2 kilos of resin. That's a big blank. So anyway, we're going to go. Right. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming over. Hope you had a great day. Take care. Speak to you soon. And bye for now. See you later, guys. Bye.
That's all, folks.